Oh, hey guys, welcome to Unit 3, Lesson 3 Notes on the percent proportion. By the end of the day, you will be able to use the percent proportion to solve problems. Oh man, I said that backwards. That's okay. All right, let's go ahead and get started as a reminder of how fractions work. So 3 out of 5, to write that as a fraction, you want to take 3 as your numerator and 5 as your denominator, so that's 3/5. 55 miles per hour is 55 miles per hour, and that's 1 hour, so we do like that. Cool. Also, you could just do like 55 miles per hour, like that is fine, but I would rather you guys have the 1. 8 over 9, 15 to 10, and 2/5 is 2/5. And then finally, 12.5%. Remember, percent means out of 100. So this would mean 12.5 out of 100. However, we do not like to have this decimal here in our fraction. So instead, we're just going to take our decimal point. We'll move it to the right 1 for each of our places, putting a little 0 in there. So that'll actually give us 125 out of 1,000. And if you want to leave it like this, that's fine. Please note that it does reduce to 1/8. How great is that? Okay. So today we're going to talk about percents. And a percent is a ratio that compares a number to 100. That's where cent comes from. Like a centipede has 100 legs, or a centurion was in charge of 100 people, or a century is 100 years old. And a little hint that a percent is a ratio is in the percent symbol itself. You'll notice that a percent is like a ratio. It looks like a fraction. How cool is that? Okay, and it's out of 100. I've heard it said that your 1, like here's your 100. So that's fun, but there you go. Percent means out of 100. So while we see this in medicine a lot, where a 5% glucose solution has 5 grams of glucose in 100 milliliters of water. This is because 100 milliliters weighs 100 grams. So, yay. Now, let's work on expressing these guys as percents. So you see I have this lovely circle right here, and 3/5 of it is shaded. So what percent of the circle is shaded? Well, all we have to do is express it as a fraction. So remember that percent means something out of 100. So we can say that 3/5 equals, we don't know what that something is. Let's say R for ratio, okay? R over 100. Oh, hey, now you know this proportion. So whatever our percent is, we don't know what our percent is, but we're solving for it. And we know that 3/5 of the circle is shaded. That's 3 of 5, so that's overall of 5 equals percent over 100. There you go. And now to solve this, we can just cross multiply. So we cross multiplying by taking, I'm about to hiccup, I can feel it coming. Okay, it didn't go. But 3 times 100 is 300. And then 5 times R is 5R. So that's great. And if 300 equals 5R, we divide both sides by 5, and we get that 60 equals R. So that tells us that 60% of the circle is shaded. And we can check our work by kind of just looking at it, saying like, hey, does that seem right? I know that 50% would be halfway, and it's like 50%, but it's a little bit more. So there you go. Looks good to me. All right, let's do one without a visual. It says 3 out of every 8 people switch channels when a commercial is on TV. So what percent is that? Well, let's follow the same pattern that we set up. We have 3 out of every 5. We say, well, that's some sort of percent. How about P for percent? Or P for people. Something out of 100. So this tells us, what colors did I use last time? Haha. So this tells us, hey, we have 3 out of 8 people equals whatever percent we wanted. We're gonna find out what percent of people that is over 100. We cross multiply. 3 times 100 is 300. 8 times P is 8P. And then to solve for P, we'll divide by 8. That'll come out to 37.5 equals P. So that gives us 37.5%. Yay! Now notice that the number of parts shaded, we call that the percentage. That's the thing that we're counting, the parts of a whole, the number of parts, we call our percentage. And then the total number of parts, the thing that it was like of, right? The total number, that's called the base, because base is at the bottom, so it forms the base of our fraction. We call that the base. Now this helps us develop a language for solving all of our percentage problems. We're going to use something called the percent proportion. The percent proportion shortcut tells us that if we have a percentage P and a base B with a percent R, remember we use up here we use like R for like ratio, we're going to follow the same pattern. Whatever our percent is, we put that over our base, and that's going to be equal to whatever our percent ends up being over 100, because remember percent is always a ratio over 100. So we say that P over B equals percent over 100. And that's great. But sometimes in a problem, it's hard to remember what is my percentage and what is my base. So here is my shortcut for you. I like to use words to help me remember, and we say is over of equals percent over 100. And this is the shortcut, you guys, that we are going to know and love, and you will want to put on every single problem ever. Okay. So let's put it into practice. We have 40 is what percent of 160? Well, let's find out what information we have. Our is 40, says 40 is. So that will be our is. What percent? We don't know what percent we have yet. What percent? So the percent is what we'll be trying to find. And then our of number is 160. That'll be our base. Of 160, of like this. So we'll say 40 over 160 equals some percent over 100. Now, since we don't know what the percent is, let's go ahead and just substitute that for P real quick. Okay, and now let's let's cross multiply. I just got so excited. So we'll do 40 times 100 equals 160 P. So with our handy dandy cross multiplication, we get 40 times 100 is 4,000 equals 160 P. And then to solve this equation, let's divide both sides by 160, giving us 25. Therefore, 40 is 25% of 160. It's a fourth of it. Cool. Let's interpret our next guy. We still have our is over of equals percent over 100. So in this problem, it says 42 is, okay, so 42 is our is number. 42 is 50%. We know our percent this time. 40 is 52% of what number? We don't know what we're trying to find. We don't know what our of number is, so that's what we'll try to find. And my Apple Pencil is dying. Of, we don't know. Okay, so let's just say like n for number, I guess. So we'll say 42 over n equals 50 over 100. Okay. Now let's cross multiply. So we'll do 42 times 100 equals n times 50. So that gives us 4,200 equals 50n. Dividing by 50 to get n all by itself, we know that that is 84. So 42 is 50% of 84. How fun is that? Key idea, is over of equals percent over 100. Keep that close and love it. In fact, I'm going to bring it down to our next page as well. Okay, so this will help us solve proportions. And now we're going to create a circle graph. A circle graph is a graph in the shape of a circle. Ha ha ha! It's also known as the pie graph because it has little pie slices in it like this. Okay, right? So it's a graph that shows the relationship between parts of the data where each little like slice of pie is a part, and then you have your whole thing. So let's jump right into it. There you go, got a nice little pie. So we have a pie store, and it has all these little orders, and we want to figure out what percent of pie type is purchased. In order to find the percent, we need to figure out what's our of number first. So let's add up how many we have total. 5 plus 9 is 14. There it is. There's that hiccup I told you about earlier. 14 plus 4 is 18. 18 plus 7 is 25. So we have a total of 25 pies. Awesome. Okay, now we set up proportions to find out percents. So let's find our key lime pie. Okay. So we know for key lime, we know that our orders, you guys, these are going to be our is numbers because we want to find out what percent. So we're going to ask, well, 5 is what percent of our total of 25. So our orders will each be our is numbers, our total is our of number, and our percent is what we're trying to find. So an example for our key lime, we say that 5 is what percent, we don't know, of 2,500. So you have is over of equals percent over 100. So we find the cross products. 500 equals 25p, divide by 25, divide by 25, and that tells us, oh, instead of p, you guys, we should have used k, because k for key lime. So it tells us that 20 equals k. So of your 100%, 20% were key lime pies. That's a fifth, right? And that makes sense because 5 is 1/5 of 25. Do that same process for, do the same process for each of your pie flavors. I'll help you set up the proportions and then I will let you solve them. So for apple, our is number is now 9. So for apple, we say that 9 over 25 is what percent over 100. For pumpkin, we'll say 4 over 25 equals what percent over 100. And then finally, for blueberry, I'm going to abbreviate blueberry. We say 7 over 25 is what percent over 100? Go ahead and pause the video, find some cross products, and solve for your percent. How'd you do? For apple, did you get 36%? And pumpkin, 16%? And blueberry, 28%? We can check this by saying, okay, key lime and pumpkin, they're about the same. Are their percents about the same? I mean, yeah, they're close. Apple was our biggest. Does it have the biggest percent? It does. And then finally, we need to add up our percents to see did they actually add up to 100, and they do. So that is good. Okay, awesome. Now we're going to do our very last thing. We're going to actually make a circle graph of the data that you just found. So the pattern is to take 360 times whatever percent you got. So the percent of key lime we said was 20%. So 360 times 20 divided by 100, because that's what a percent is, it's over 100, equals how many degrees of the circle we need. This actually comes out to 72 degrees. Because remember, in a circle, you're finding the percent of 360. So a whole circle has 360 degrees. And you need to find what proportion of that 360 do each of your pie slices, kind of pun intended, what do they, how much of their circle will they take up? What proportion of the circle will you take up? So we're going to follow this same pattern. You'll need 360 times, you'll need 360 times whatever the percent is divided by 100 equals whatever the degree is. So we'll take this pattern and copy it for all of our squares. And then we need to take what their percentages were and copy them into our percent part. Here we go, we got it. So going across, 360 times 36 divided by 100 comes out to 129.6 degrees. Next, for our pumpkin pie, 360 times 16 divided by 100 equals 57.6 degrees. And finally, blueberry is 360 times 28%, which is divided by 100, gives you 108. Now, why does this work? This works because we are doing is over of equals percents over 100 backwards. Here, we want to find out, okay, how many degrees over 360, what portion of our circle is 20%? So what is 20% of 360? Well, that's 72. So that's what we were finding here. Okay, now that we know our degrees, we can split this into a circle. Okay, here we go. So we have our circle, we take out our protractor, and we need to measure 72 degrees. That'll be approximately that big. And then we need to measure 129 degrees. Well, that'll be approximately that big. Then we need to measure 57.6 degrees. That'll be approximately that big. And then we need to measure 100.8 degrees. Oh, hey, that finishes the rest of our circle. It's like they all add up. And then we should probably label our pie slices as our final step. We've got key lime right here, key lime. We have apple over here, And then we've got pumpkin. Oh, this is like the perfect pumpkin spice color. Nice. And then finally we have blueberry. Although I feel like blueberry pie is more of purpley, so that kind of works. We should label them with our percents. We found out earlier that this is 20%, 36%, 16%, and 28%. We did it. We made a circle graph using proportions. It was a great find. This is your key idea of the day. Is over of equals percent over 100. Write it on your homework. Love it. Maybe get a temporary tattoo or paint it on your, on your binder. Is over of equals percent over 100. Have a fantastic time with your day.